How's it going, everybody? Z Bilbs here. I'm back with another ranking, and today I am going to be this is actually going to be a longer video because I'm actually doing 3 rankings in one. Well, it might say on the title of the video that I'm just ranking the members of the Suicide Squad. I decided to condense 3 different videos into just one likely longer video, and so I'm going to put timestamps after I say what each of these are. But these 3 rankings, I'm going to start with ranking each members of the Suicide Squad by how much I like their character. Then I'm going to do a power ranking of each of the members of the Suicide Squad by how strong they are. And then finally, I'm going to be ranking all of the deaths from all of the characters in the Suicide Squad. Now, I'll go more into detail about each of these rankings when I get to them, but timestamps are right here, so skip ahead to whichever one you need to. And before I get started with my first ranking, I'd just like to say that while I haven't posted a review for this movie, I just want to do a quick mini review and just say that I love this movie. I think it's fantastic. It's actually my favorite DCEU movie. The only reason that I haven't made a review for it is because it feels like it's way too late for that. You guys let me know if you still want to see it or something like that. I'd probably give it in the 9s if I did an out of 10 rating for it. I thought it was wonderful, but I'm just decided to do a ranking of all of the characters instead. But great movie. If you haven't seen it, go out and see it in the theaters, get HBO Max, it's fantastic. But moving on with my first ranking, I'm going to be ranking all the characters by how much I like them, how much I like their presence in the movie. And I'd just like to start off by saying that I don't dislike any of the characters. I think they're all very fun, very unique, very good for their own right. I definitely prefer some over others, but there's not any character in this movie that I disliked. And also, I'm just including members of the core Suicide Squad, members that fought alongside in combat. I'm also gonna add the Thinker because, I mean, I guess he went into the combat situation there, and he is like a superhero, quote unquote, at least in the comic books. But, you know, I'm not doing Amanda Waller, I'm not doing Sol Soria, nobody else like that. So there's gonna be 15 members in this, and I'll just get started with the worst, which shouldn't be too surprising, but it's definitely Mongal. Now, I know this character is like a god in the comics and is like super strong, but in this movie, I think she had like one line right before she jumped on the helicopter, and that was pretty much it. And then, I mean, I guess it was cool seeing her swinging around the helicopter and then eventually crashing and burning to death, but that was pretty much all she did in the entire movie. I don't remember any lines that she had on the helicopter on the way to the mission. Overall, not a bad character. She served her purpose of just being on the first mission and dying right away, but not particularly cool or memorable. But next up at the 14th spot, I have Blackguard. Now, you know, say what you will about Pete Davidson. I think he was all right, but he definitely was just a, you know, gimmick character. The character who's just kind of a douchebag, sells them all out, and gets shot in the face. And I thought he was great for what he was, of just being this douchebag who gets shot in the face right away. But he didn't really bring much to the table besides that. He wasn't really annoying, he was just kind of there. He was just like, whatever. Pete Davidson, shot in the face. It's just kind of Pete Davidson playing Pete Davidson. It's all right, it's not spectacular. Next up, I've got Javelin. Now, I do know that this is a former YouTuber who played this character. I think it's like Flulaborg or something like that. So, well done to you, because you know, it was all right. I mean, he definitely had more of an impact than the other 2 characters. I mean, he had some dialogue with Harley Quinn on the helicopter and before he died, but I mean, that was really it. What was so disappointing about him is, you know, unlike even characters like Mongal and whatnot, who got to get some sort of accidental kills, he didn't get to kill anybody with his javelin. He sort of just got shot and fell down and died. Why he's higher than the other two characters is because at least he got some lines in there, and he got that sort of connection with Harley Quinn before he died. I know a lot of people put Javelin higher on ranking lists that I've seen because they're like, oh, his Javelin was so important throughout the whole thing, so Javelin is such an important character. He's high. No, just because his Javelin is important does not mean that his actual character named Javelin, not the actual Javelin, is important. I mean, not a bad character, once again, but definitely near the bottom of the pack. But moving on to number 12, I've got Weasel. Now, I know a lot of people would put this character higher because he's actually kind of hilarious. So it's Sean Gunn who plays Weasel. He also plays Calendar Man. And Weasel is just, for one of the lesser characters, he definitely makes an impact for just being this derpy looking weird thing who's eaten 27 children. He doesn't have any lines, but it just the gag he's in, he just jumps out and then just drowns right away, and then he comes back at the end. Just very funny, and he'd probably be higher if he weren't in it so little. But I do like Weasel. I just, I really hope we see more of him in the next Suicide Squad movie, if there's a Suicide Squad movie. Moving on, at number 11, I've got Savant. Now, Savant, I like Michael Rooker. He's awesome as Yondu. And this is definitely one of those characters that I was really disappointed when he got his head blown off at the beginning. But I thought it was a really awesome character to do a bait and switch on, sort of focusing in on him for the very beginning, being like, oh yeah, this is like the main guy of the crew. He's watching all of his crew go into battle. He tried to save Weasel. And then at the end, he's like, yeah, I'm out of here. And then boom, he's dead. He's higher than the other characters below him because I really thought he was interesting and cool to start to do the opening on, to focus in on him, sort of set him up as like a potentially interesting, cool character, and then doing that whole bait and switch. It is kind of disappointing that I didn't get to see more of him, but I thought he was fun for the amount that he was in. Moving on to number 10, this is a character that probably isn't as sort of important as Savant in the beginning, but I just love the joke that they did with this character, and this is TDK, Nathan Fillion, who is awesome and hilarious, by the way. The detachable kid, just my gosh, the gag that they do with him where his arms come off and then he just starts bopping people in the head. I was laughing so hard at that. Just that alone gets this character into the 10th spot. He was just amazing for that. And man, I'll get to this more later when I talk about deaths, but I feel like there's a chance he's still alive because I don't remember anywhere seeing like red over his face when they were back in the mission room. So I'm holding out hope that he pulled through, but I'll talk a little bit more about that when I get to the deaths. But very funny character. Wish he was in there more, but very funny for what he was in. Moving on to number 9. This one is one that's kind of sad that he's so low, but Captain Boomerang. Now, I hated Suicide Squad 2016, but one of the more interesting, fun parts about that was actually Jai Courtney as Captain Boomerang. I thought he did an actually excellent job for the movie that he was in, just sort of loudmouth, alcoholic, Australian, throwing boomerangs around. And in this one, he was pretty much his character from the last one. He just didn't get as much screen time, which is really unfortunate because he had some fun banter with Harley Quinn. He got some absolutely sick kills at the beginning when he tossed his boomerang, freaking sliced a dude's head right off. It was great. And then, it was just sad to see him go too soon. He probably would have been higher if not for that, being taken away from us like that. But moving on to number 8, I've got probably the most disappointing character, and that is the Thinker. And now the thinker going in, you got, Peter Capaldi. You've got, all the freaking things on his head. You're like, oh man, this guy, he's smart. What is he going to do? He's going to be this secret, manipulator guy. And then it's just like, oh yeah, he's a scientist. He just does scientist stuff. And that's pretty much it. He just, oh man, he's not lower because he does have a great scene at the end when he's talking about how America's involvement in Project Starfish, and he goes on a really fun monologue, and he was just kind of this weird kind of pervert guy that it was kind of funny. And he was in the movie more than other characters below him, which is why he's higher. But I really would have liked to see him, like, I don't know, show something, anything of him being like, oh yeah, I'm smart, I'm a thinker, I can cleverly do this. But he was actually kind of a moron. Just, getting captured and being like, yeah, I'll take you to Jotunheim, and then, oh no, Starro's out, now I'm dead. Yeah, it's too bad, but, thinker, number 8, it's a shame, but yeah. Coming in at number 7, this one might be a little controversial, and I want to say that I absolutely love this character, just other characters I liked more, and at number 7 is going to be Ratcatcher 2. Now, Ratcatcher 2 is kind of the heart and soul of this movie, and I really jived with her. I love her bonds with Bloodsport, with King Shark. I love, the little backstory with her father. She just such a fun, interesting character. Why she isn't higher is, while I do think she did a good job, there were a couple scenes that stick out in my mind as having a little bit weaker acting. In particular, the scene on the bus where she's talking about the burdens of her father and whatnot. I thought it was a little cheesy acting. You might disagree with me. And the scene at the end when she's talking about, oh, the city isn't ours, it's not yours, it's theirs. And it's like, I like the character. I just think the delivery on some of her lines were a little cheesy, and it just made me care about the character and not as much as other ones. Still a good character, still loved her, still thought she was great, but just not as good as other ones. Moving on to number 6, I've got the leader of the team, at least minus Bloodsport, and that is Rick Flag. Rick Flag, what a step up from the first movie. He goes from generic army guy to dude in a yellow bunny shirt, just absolutely being a leader, being just the one really just good character at heart, I guess, besides, Ratcatcher 2. And he's just fun to just be a part of, and just see him lead the team and form these bonds with the team and actually be like sick, have some awesome kills in the movie, and just allowing the audience to sort of latch on to him, being like, yes, this is the character that I can really connect with, that I can jive with. It really, really great character, and that's why it was so heartbreaking to see him go in such a tragic and brutal way at the end there. Really nothing I disliked about him. He just, wasn't in the movie as much as these next characters, and the other characters, I just liked more, I suppose. So moving on to number 5, I've got Polka Dot Man. Now, who could think that a guy called Polka Dot Man could be such a freaking fun and funny character? This is just the freaking dude who's got virus, make his skin all puffy. He shoots polka dots. He's got absolutely crazy mommy issues. But boy, is he just such a fun character. Just like from the moment you learn about him and how he sees his mom everywhere, I was just like, yes, this character is so good. It just, he's awkward, but he's also lovable. He gets some absolutely awesome kills, and you get to see him grow in his sort of confidence, and then at the end finally like declaring like that he's a superhero, that he's sort of fulfilled, his life's purpose. And you know, it was really sad to see him go, but I really enjoyed all the time that he was there on screen. But coming in at number 4 is the most popular character, and that is Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn, man, she kind of had like her whole little mini side movie in this movie. She comes out with the first squad gets wiped out, and then she's got her little love story with, you know, President Luna. And man, I think that part of the movie, the pacing slowed down a bit too much for my liking. It was still, there was some absolutely awesome stuff there, from like the big sort of shocker twist when she shoots Luna in the chest and goes on a mini monologue about, oh, my past boyfriends suck. And then she goes on one of the best action scenes in the entire movie, if not the best, when she absolutely just mows down all of the guards, just annihilates them, and then just flowers and birds. Just, she really comes across as just more true to how she was in the comic books, and just maybe like the Arkham games too. I love the Arkham games, just that sort of crazy, wild, but also just freaking awesome aspect of her. And she's not higher because I do like the dynamics with the other team members a little more, and she didn't really get into the team until closer to the end. So while I really love her character, I like sort of the bonds and then the uniqueness of these next 3 characters a little more. But Harley Quinn was excellent in this movie. I also love when she stabbed Star on the eye. That was great. Moving on at number 3, it is your boy John Cena himself as the Peacemaker. Douchey Captain America. Who could have thought? Just what a fun character. This is a dude who just freaking blows people up with exploding compression rounds and just delivers some of the funniest lines in the entire movie. I still remember when he had the competition with Bloodsport at the beginning, and he's like, oh, it's not showing off if it's dope as F, or something like that. It was just hilarious. Absolutely some brutal violence behind him. He had a really interesting sort of dynamic with Flag at the end, where they went at each other, and I felt really bad because I really kind of liked him as a character. Even though he was kind of a douchebag, he was also kind of likable when he was in the bar scene and he got a drink for the rat. And it was really sad to sort of see him turn, but you really get to see when he's about to kill Ratcatcher too, that sort of conflict in him, and he's like, oh, should I kill her? Shouldn't I kill her? That really gave him more depth and sort of humanized him more, but showed that his duty was more important than the lives of everyone else at the end of the day. And I'm really excited for the the Peacemaker series. I think that'll hopefully be very good, because he was just a fun, brutal, funny character. Just great. Now, coming in at number 2, this is most people's number 1, and that is King Shark. What else is there to say about King Shark? He's just one of the most adorably brutal characters in any recent movie. Voiced by Sylvester Stallone, which is just a match made in heaven. Just every single line is just hilarious and just cute. Just, and oh, book read, love books so much, new dumb friends. It's just every time you just want to protect him. When he starts getting chomped by those jellyfish things, that was like one of the saddest moments. I was like, oh my gosh, is King Shark gonna die? Like, oh, just everything about King Shark. He's just funny. He's just some of the best kills in the movie when he just tears that guy in half. He's just adorable. He's just lovable. Just fantastic. Only outclassed by my number 1 pick, because the number 1 pick had a little more depth to him, and that is, coming in at 1, Bloodsport. Now, this shouldn't be too much of a surprise, because Bloodsport is kind of the main character in the movie, maybe besides Harley Quinn. But he's really, him and Ratcatcher 2 are the heart and soul of this movie. And Idris Elba puts in an absolutely fantastic performance as Bloodsport. And first of all, he's, in my opinion, the most just sick character when it comes to all of his weapons and his abilities. He's got freaking flamethrower, he's got a hook, he's got his massive nanotech guns, he's got pistols. He's got some absolutely awesome, sick action scenes. Love the competition with Peacemaker. I love him. See him go and get over his rat phobia with the movie. I love him. See him grow into his leadership role. That gunfight with Peacemaker at the end. Just everything about him. Just when I think of the Suicide Squad, just Bloodsport stands out as just the character who just is the Suicide Squad. He just feels like just the leader. Just, he's violent, he's funny, and he has a lot of heart, and he really grew as a character throughout the movie, and I just thought he was my favorite. So that's all I got. That is my top 15 characters in the Suicide Squad. They were all good characters, but that is how it goes for that. But next, I'm going to move on to ranking all 15 characters by how powerful I thought that they are in the movie. And some quick thoughts before I get into this ranking. I just like to say, I am not basing anything off the comic books in this ranking of power. I'm also, while I am taking into account mostly what was seen on screen, I'm taking into account a little bit the potential of certain characters, because some characters we really, they die too quickly and we don't get to see how good they would have been if they would have survived. I know that's kind of cheating a little bit, but just hang in there with me and I'll try to explain myself the best I can. But let's just go. Let's start off with 15. It shouldn't come as too much of a surprise, but it's definitely TDK. Now, this is a character, when your arms come off, you would think you would, sneak him around a character, have like a knife in your hand or a gun, and do something like that. But why this character is so low on the power level is when you take his mind into account for his power, it is not very good. He just bops people, and then he has this look on his face like, oh yeah, I'm really getting them. Like, not only is he super weak, as in he did not do anything to stop these guys, but he's also a moron. He's like, who would think that just bopping these guys would do anything? No, he is the weakest character. And because he's so stupid, that's why he is lower than my next pick at 14, which is the Thinker. Because I am counting intelligence a little bit into this, because you're only powerful if you're smart enough to be able to use your power correctly. But the Thinker is a character where you could think he would be higher if you actually saw him being smart or using his thinking power in some way, but he's just this dude who's apparently a good scientist and ran some experiments and whatnot. But, he doesn't kill anybody, he doesn't show his power in any way, he's just sort of there, and, whatever, 14. Next up, coming in at 13, I've got Blackguard. Now, this is a guy, he's got a lot of guns on his vest, and so you'd assume he'd be able to use those guns okay. But then again, he's also kind of a moron, which is why he's farther down. Like, who would think you're going up there and you're like, hey, like, I'm the one who called you, and they're all pointing guns at you, and you think even if they did take you in, that Waller wasn't just going to blow your head off anyways. So, I'm sure he's sort of powerful because he does have guns and whatnot, and that's more useful than TDK just bopping people with his arms and whatnot. So, alright, but really not that good, like, at all. But yeah, moving on is Weasel. Now, Weasel can't swim, so that's definitely a big downside, but we didn't get to see him be in battle or anything, so who knows? He killed 27 children, so those are just children, but because, you know, he is dumb, I'm putting him above Blackguard. You know, Blackguard's got guns and stuff, but part of me just has a little bit of a feeling that if we did see him in a battle, he might munch a guy's face off. Which is why he's higher than Blackguard, but they're practically interchangeable, let's be honest now. But moving on at the next spot, I've got Javelin. Now, Javelin's another character where, you know, maybe he's good, but he didn't get any kills. Like, I really wanted to see him kill just one person with that javelin, but he's like, oh, shoot, now I got shot and dead. And he's definitely a character who, you know, you would assume, since you see his javelin killing people later, that he's talented with that said javelin, which is why he's this high. But you don't get to see him kill anyone with that javelin, and I don't know how it would have really helped in that situation anyway, since guns are trained all around you, and even if you throw it, then there goes your javelin. So, you know, not great, but still I think better than the other ones. But all these bottom ones are really close, let's be honest. But next up, I've got Mongal at number 10. And, well, Mongal, you don't really get to see her directly kill any people. I didn't even see if she had any weapons on her or anything. She sort of just, you know, grabbed onto the helicopter, and then I mean, you can see that she's probably really strong because she made the helicopter, like, come down and spin around and stuff, so that's pretty useful. So I'd assume she'd be pretty strong in a fist fight and whatnot, and she indirectly got a lot of kills, so that's something, whereas Javelin just sort of got shot and whatnot. But, I mean, she doesn't have any weapons. She's not very smart since she just went at that helicopter. Rick Flag was even like, no, don't do it. And she also got Captain Boomerang killed, so that's kind of dumb too. But, I mean, she did move that helicopter, so that's something, I guess. But yeah, that's Mongal. Number 9, speaking of Captain Boomerang, it's Captain Boomerang. Now this one, in this, just the short time he was in this movie, he already seemed stronger than he was in Suicide Squad 2016. Since in that movie, he threw his boomerang like freaking, I don't know, 5 times. In this one, he threw it maybe twice, but one time he threw it, man, he freaking annihilated a couple guys. Chopped their freaking heads off. Like, that alone makes him higher than all of the guys below him. Didn't really get to see much beyond that, and I mean, a boomerang, even though if it can chop people, it's not that great of a weapon in a gunfight. So, not great. Sorry, Captain Boomerang, but number 9. Moving on at number 8, this is a character that I see people rank very low in the ranking because you do not get to see him do much, but at number 8 I've got Savant. Now, Savant's one kill in this movie is the bird. So a lot of people are like, yep, he killed the bird and then he ran away and that's it. But because I'm counting potential in this too, Savant is shown to be an absolute master when it comes to weapons and hand-to-hand combat. You even see him with that ball just bouncing it around like it's nothing. And I think if he did join the fight, he would have gotten at least a number of kills before he got taken down. But because we don't get to see that, I think, honestly, I think he could have been higher because he did seem like he had a lot of skill and potential in this movie. We didn't get to see it. I think he could have been higher than the next couple of picks, but this is as high as I'm willing to put Savant, so that's number 8. Next up at 7, I have got Rick Flag. Now, Rick Flag, you know, he's just sort of like an army dude. He doesn't really have any sort of skills or whatnot, but dang, he's pretty good. I mean, he got the touch of death in the truck there. That was pretty sweet. So you tell he's definitely a professional. He's had a lot of experience. He had that great scene where he absolutely shot those 2 guys like down the middle like that. You know, he took Peacemaker on. He almost killed him, and Peacemaker's an absolutely trained lethal assassin. He's pretty dang good. Out of most of like the normal non-really superhero characters, he's probably the best one, but unfortunately just other characters I thought were better. Like the next character, number 6, Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn, you know, she doesn't really have any superpowers, and she'd probably be below Rick Flag if it weren't for the escaping the prison scene where she absolutely annihilates people with the guns, just using the javelin, using the bars as weapons, using like a piece of her skirt as a weapon. It just shows that she's absolutely, when she wants to be, she can be a menace. And, you know, Harley Quinn, just great. Number 6. Other ones are a little better, I think. But moving on at number 5, we've got Peacemaker. Peacemaker, you know, he's a trained assassin. You can see right from the competition scene, when they kill all those people, he's got so many weapons in his belt. He's got the little blow darts. He's good with a sword. He's got exploding compression rounds. You know, I'd say he's kind of close to Bloodsport when it comes to that. I think Bloodsport is higher because, for one, he's smarter because he uses the smaller bullets, even though Peacemaker says he does, but he actually didn't, and that was his downfall at the end. But also, I think, you know, Bloodsport, he's got all that nanotech, all that crazy stuff, whereas Peacemaker does not. So Peacemaker, very skilled, very good, but I don't think he's any higher than number 5. But coming in at number 4, I've got Polka Dot Man. Now, this is definitely one of those characters who probably had more potential than we saw on screen, and a lot of people put him really high because his polka dots are absolutely deadly. You just shoot it, takes down a tower. You shoot it, friggin' incinerates guys. Took out Starro's leg in one fell swoop. Now, the problem with Polka Dot Man is that, you know, for one, we don't know how many polka dots he has. I'm sure he seems to have like a finite amount, which makes him, you know, less powerful than others. And also just the fact that he's like super timid and he has to picture people as his mom in order to kill them, just makes him not much of a threat as other characters. And really that's what got him killed at the end, because he was just distracted. He's not quite as focused as, you know, other characters like Bloodsport and whatnot. Very, very powerful, probably in sheer raw power. He'd be stronger than Bloodsport, but in effect, in an actual battle, I think that Polka Dot Man is weaker. But moving on to my number 3 spot. Now we're really getting into the heavy hitters here. This is a character next up that I think, another one that a lot of people put at their number 1. I disagree, I'll say why, but number 3 is Ratcatcher 2. Now, Ratcatcher 2, pretty much almost single-handedly, with the help of Harley, took out Starro. Just, you know, summoning a million rats to just, you know, climb on top of him, take out all of the little mini Starro people, and eat his eye out from the inside, which is absolutely OP as crap. And if we're just talking about that, if she was just surrounded by a million rats all the time, she would be number 1 on the list. But if you think about it, she had to get saved like twice in that movie by Bloodsport. When she was just about to summon those rats, Bloodsport had to dive on her. She just about got crushed. He had to save her from getting eaten by King Shark. He had to save her from just about getting shot by Peacemaker. And it shows that, you know, when she has her rats and when she's in her prime, she's probably the most powerful character. But the thing is, she's not always in that situation. She doesn't seem to have, you know, most aware of her surroundings. And because of that, I don't think she's the most powerful, the most lethal killer in the movie. But moving on to number 2, I've got Bloodsport. I think when it comes to just raw power, I think there's more powerful characters. But what's so great about Bloodsport is just he's just smart. He just knows how to take on a situation, how to survive. You show, you know, Starro tried to absolutely squash him. He got out of the way. He saved Ratcatcher. Eventually, he did need Ratcatcher's help, but he's also a great leader. He's got so much this nanotech guns and stuff. And hey, he took out Superman with a kryptonite bullet. That is freaking impressive. I was strongly considering putting him at the #1 pick, but I think there's one more character who's just in raw power, cannot be topped, and that is at #1, King Shark. Now, this is one character who I don't think we've seen his full potential, but based on what we've seen, I think he's just the best when it comes to raw strength. He was like pretty much if the Hulk was a shark, that is King Shark. We saw him get smashed into a building. We saw an entire just battalion raining bullets on him, and he's just like, yeah, whatever. The one thing that seemed to get him a little bit was those little jellyfish who were actually taking him out. I was actually worried that he was going down there. I don't know why bullets just bounced right off of him and jellyfish did something. Part of me thinks because that was a secret experiment facility that those jellyfish, I don't know, had magic pincers or something. Because then it's like, why do bullets bounce off of him, but the jellyfish, I don't know. It's kind of weird, but when you really think about it, how much magic jellyfish are going to be around there, and I think King Shark, when it comes to durability, when it comes to strength, just the stuff that you saw him go through and survive, I think if he was in a one-on-one with any of these characters, I think he would win. Like, you know, Bloodsport would knock him back with all of his guns for a while, but eventually, you know, King Shark is so durable that he would get through. Ratcatcher, unless she's got her swarm, I think King Shark would probably get her. You know, maybe Polka Dot Man's dots would blow him up, but you know, it's yet to be seen. But I think just in raw power, as we saw from this movie, there's just no topping King Shark. That might, you know, he's not the smartest, but I feel like just most powerful. And let me know what you think. I could be wrong, but that's all I got. Those are my Suicide Squad characters ranked by power. Now I'm going to finish this out with all of the deaths ranked in the Suicide Squad. Now this is just of Suicide Squad members, so we're not going to count any extra characters. Sorry, we're not going to count Milton. I love Milton, but you know, I'm also, for the sake of this list, I am going to count characters who had fake out deaths. So you can, in your mind, you can just cross them off the list if you don't want to count that. But I thought just in the movie as a watching experience, it, you know, it felt like deaths in the moment, and, you know, it hit like deaths. So I'm going to rank them as deaths even if they weren't really deaths. I know that probably doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's just what I'm going to do. So I'm sorry. But yeah, let's go. But starting off at number 11, I've got Javelin. Now this character, he just got shot in the chest a few times, and that was it. We didn't get to see him kill anybody. He just went down, and then he had a couple words with Harley Quinn, and that was it. It was really, it wasn't anything special. It was just shot a couple times, dead. Yeah, whatever. Don't really care all that much. Sorry, Javelin. Worst main death of the characters. But moving on to number 10, which I think is a significant step up, that is Mongal. Now, you know, she got a helicopter crash, and we got to see her burn to death and whatnot, which is pretty cool. But I didn't think it was anything all that special. You know, she just sort of burned and crawled away, and it was good, but, you know, it wasn't great. But moving on to 9, we've got our first fake-out death, and that is Weasel. Now, what is so great about Weasel's death, now, pretty much he just drowned, quote-unquote, but it's just absolutely hilarious, you know, all the team, they're getting in the water, they're ready to go, and then Weasel just flops, just smacks the water, just starts drowning. Like, his death, while not the most flashy or gory, it was just hilarious and just an absolutely funny way to start out the movie, set the tone for what kind of thing we're going to be seeing. Just pretty solid. Yeah. Moving on to number 8, I've got TDK. This is one of the characters that I mentioned earlier in this video. I personally feel like I'm holding out hope that he might be alive, but as far as I know, as far as everything I've seen, that he is most likely dead. But he also just had a very funny death, just writhing on the beach as everybody shoots his arms. Like, it's like, what do you think was gonna happen, bud? It just, I mean, you see him at the end there, and he's sort of just like bleeding out and whatnot, and it's kind of assumed that he died like that. So I guess bleeding out isn't the most interesting of deaths, but just seeing him writhing on the beach as his arms get shot, that was just hilarious. So yeah, TDK at number 8. Moving on to number 7, I've got Blackguard. Now this was a very prominent, very fun way to start off the more graphic side of the Suicide Squad. Seeing Pete Davidson walk up and then just a hole straight in his head. It was both hilarious, it was shocking, and it was just an awesome, sweet death to start it off. Yeah, that we got Blackguard, number 7. Number 6, ahead by just a bit, I've got Savant. Now this was an absolutely great way, an awesome bait and switch way of showing, you know, what those explosives in people's heads will do, and way more interesting than just blowing up Slipknot as he tried to climb a building, having it, you know, Savant just run away, swim away, and being like, nope, sorry, Savant, boom, head everywhere. His blood from his head turns into Warner Bros. Pictures Presents, and then you got the bird coming in and eating his brain. It was just all around. It was gory, it was shocking, it was a great bait and switch, and it was just an awesome death to cap off the first scene of the movie. At number 5, I've got Polka Dot Man. Now, if we're talking about emotional impact of these deaths, I think Polka Dot Man would be higher, but because I'm including multiple factors, you know, emotional impact, you know, how interesting the kill was, you know, how graphic and whatnot. Unfortunately, Polka Dot Man, he had, while it was very sad, because I loved Polka Dot Man, I saw it coming a mile away, as well as I think most people did. Like, in the trailer, once he says, "I'm a superhero," you just know, yeah, he's dead. They pan away from him, and then you're like, yep, 3, 2, 1, smush. You saw it coming away. It was pretty, you know, for people who didn't see it coming, I'm sure it would have been better. Why it's so high is that, I mean, it is, I guess, sort of graphic, just seeing him get smushed, kind of cool. But just because, like, the emotional impact of Polka Dot Man getting crushed made it, you know, a compelling and, you know, really tragic death, but also with, you know, that hint of that, you know, James Gunn comedy of just a shocking, just out of nowhere kind of a death. So, overall, Polka Dot Man, solid death. But coming in at number 4, we've got the last of the original squad, and that is Captain Boomerang. Now, why Captain Boomerang ranks so high, even higher than Polka Dot Man, even though he didn't have as much of an emotional impact as the other characters. I mean, he did leave a little bit of an impression from Suicide Squad 2016, but there's just something about that was just kind of an awesome moment when, and shocking when, you know, all the shrapnel from the trees goes into him, and you're like, oh shoot, like, this dude is gonna, like, die and bleed out. But then it got even worse as Harley Quinn was like, "Oh, Boomer," and then he looks and he just gives a smile like, "Oh shoot, I'm screwed," and the helicopter just absolutely annihilates him. And then you get to see him later just still holding up the boomerang. All in all, it was just, even though you hate to see him go, it was just a really kind of cool, satisfying, funny way for, you know, a solid character to go. And so overall, I was satisfied with the way that Captain Boomerang had to go. Moving on to number 3, I've got the other fake out death, and that is Peacemaker. Now this was just such a cool scene and shot in the movie of, you know, Bloodsport and Peacemaker in a Western type duel and shooting. You know, Peacemaker's bullet get crushed, goes through, whoosh, right in the neck. Well, not necessarily, you know, not as cool as Pete Davidson getting blasted through the face or Savant getting his head blown off. It was kind of graphic, and it was just an absolutely awesome scene in the movie. I am glad that he did survive that. I'm excited to see what Peacemaker brings in his own series. But yeah, that was it. Peacemaker number 3. Moving on at number 2, I've got Thinker. While a disappointing character, I thought he had an absolutely sick death. And I mean, he did deserve it, just taking advantage of poor Starro and just being an all-around creep in general. You really get what's coming to him as, you know, Starro strings him up, you know, Blair Witch style. You know, he begs for his life and then just ripped, torn, other half of his body smashed against the window, just whoosh. Not really a shocking death, but just a brutal, violent, just awesome, and just a really solid way to take out the Thinker. And, you know, rip Peter Capaldi, I'm sorry. Oh, man, I mean, he's not dead in real life, but, you know, his character, whatever. Well, moving on, to finish it off, this is a character, I think this is a lot of people's number 1 kill, and this is the one death that, you know, really stuck with me. I was like, oh, no, and that is Rick Flag. I think most people going into this movie are like, yeah, Rick Flag, he'll make it out. It's Rick Flag, right? It's just, what's a Suicide Squad without Rick Flag? And then to just see him in that fight, and I mean, I knew that Peacemaker was going to get a series, so part of me was like, oh, I mean, he's not going to kill Peacemaker, but they're still not going to kill Rick Flag, because it's Rick Flag. But then, oh, man, even when you see him get stabbed, you know, in the heart, part of me was like, wait, but he's not going to die. And then you see him smash the Mortal Kombat style, zoom in on the heart getting punctured. I was like, oh, shoot. Like, he's done. Oh, and then he had those great last lines, Peacemaker, what a joke. And then he died. It was just, you know, it was really emotional. It was a powerful moment. It was, you know, it was cool, it was violent, it was a great way to top off a really fun fight between Peacemaker and Rick Flag, just a really awesome sequence, and overall, I thought that was the coolest death, coolest and saddest, just the best death of all of the characters in the Suicide Squad. But that is going to do it for my video. Let me know what you thought, let me know in the comments which of all of these picks you agree with, which ones you don't agree with. Let me know if you want to see any other type of videos, any other rankings on games, movies, music. And that's all I got for you today. I'll see you later.